we decide what values our nation will uphold? Unfortunately, many of the values that are a blessing to the world seem to be less respected today, taught, or mandated than they once were. Now, those of us who are Templars look to the age of chivalry and seek to emulate the manners and honor it extolled. But the reality is that that age was also one of cruelty and war and inequality. Yet the values and ethics they dreamed of remain most admirable. Charity, compassion, and honor are essential for a truly civilized world and for a Christian life. If we're to enable people of different cultures and faiths to live together in a positive and progressive manner, we must share the wisdom to practice and promote such values. When one starts rationalizing why we should be doing what we want to do, rather than what is right, we are on a slippery slope. When one rationalizes against speaking out for values that enhance everyone's life, we're just cowards. But more importantly, we're abandoning the kind of future that our children and our country so badly needs. We no longer object when people swear, and swearing is heard everywhere. Instead, we choose to remain mute. Do we speak up and tell them off, or do we ignore their attitude and rationalize with free speech? How committed are we to what we value? Do we call out the man peeing in the parking lot stairwell, or the woman swearing at her child? Do we teach our children to go the extra block to ride their bike with the traffic on the one-way streets? Do we speak out when we see someone putting bottles into their backpack at the liquor store? Do we work on elections to ensure the issues that are important to us are an option? Simple things, but essential to a world in which all can live comfortably. Do we just criticize what the government does and then ignore the laws we don't like when they enact them? It isn't easy to speak out when faced with people who feel that they are doing their own woke thing and that is their right, and that any other stance is wrong and attackable, and attack they do. We speak about what a great nation Canada is, welcoming people from every country, particularly refugees. But we don't assist them in learning that we have values that may well be different than those of their homeland, that are important in a multicultural country. For instance, there are nations where women are legally considered the property of their fathers or husbands, where their rights, even to an education, are severely restricted. Do we accept their right to seek to inculcate those values here and allow their wives and daughters to be second-class citizens? Schools recently banned police officers from attending their children's school events if they were wearing their uniforms, lest it trigger families from countries where the police were the enemy. Surely we should be encouraging the presence of uniformed police whenever we can, to teach the newcomers that police are the good guys and the people we go to when we need help or are in trouble. In many countries, children are expected to go to work at a very young age to help support the family, far below the age at which we currently allow them to leave school. Should we make exemptions for their children out of respect for their right to differing values? And what about the teen taking 2 or 3 seats to stretch out on the subway, or the woman with her bags on the seat beside her, or the man with his feet on the seat facing him? Do we say something, risking retribution, or do we just ignore their selfishness or ignorance? And what about the prejudices against homosexuals and all those other initialed communities? Many religions and countries have extreme rulings that discriminate against, even execute them. How does our live and let live approach seem to them when they equate such a lifestyle with mortal sin, rather than accepting our notions of equality? And how do we adapt to see those who proselytize differing faiths as agents of the devil, and in their homelands would face imprisonment or even execution? On the other hand, some of our domestic practices may seem unloving, even cruel, when compared to multi-generational living arrangements, such as the university-bound moving into co-ed dorms, single young adults leaving their families' home, elderly relatives institutionalized when they can no longer care for themselves. In countries where family are the care providers in hospitals, how can we expect them to comfortably abide with hospital visiting hours and staff scandalized at their desire to do the bathing and wound dressing without regard to the institution's rules? And surely we can't always be right. So where does our commitment to honor and virtue and faith lie? Do we have the right to impose our values on others? Do we have any right to claim that the values behind our laws and behavior are superior to those of any other land? Do we have the responsibility to demonstrate good manners and behavior, or even any responsibility to condone behaviors that seem appropriate to another? Do we close our eyes, turn our backs, and shrug our shoulders? Or do we engage others? Do we speak out at injustice or cruelty? The challenge: how to adopt the best others bring and inculcate the best that we have. The reality is that when even a few do something vile, it taints the whole community. When we tolerate bad or cruel or unfair or discriminating behavior, we're endorsing it. It's like poison dripping into our drinking water. Initially, we will tolerate it without being affected. Then, the weakest will sicken, and then more and more will succumb. The poison of tolerating behavior contrary to virtue and honor, whether in our neighbor, the stranger in the elevator, or the politician in office, will destroy all that is best and most generous in any nation. Hillary Clinton reminded us of an eternal truth when she quoted the ancient African proverb, "It takes a village to raise a child." And every member of the village, city, or community has that responsibility. Values and courage and stamina and so much more need to be inculcated in each child, in each newcomer to the village or nation. The challenge is to find ways to curb the excesses of the woke folk who want to raise mobs to oppose what they oppose, although good manners and toleration seemingly are not on the list of the virtues they demand. We also need to engage in encouraging resiliency. We need to learn to shrug off the mere irritants and failings of living side by side with those who speak languages we don't understand, whose food smells differently, and whose music isn't our choice. We don't have to like behaviors to tolerate them, nor do we have to accept that all beliefs and values are equal. But toleration is the grease that oils human interaction, particularly in a place that values diversity. Understanding is also a big help. We need to encourage both ourselves and others to be kinder and more caring when we encounter differences that do no harm. In adopting to new behaviors and strategies, the goal is that all will benefit, and our world will be a place where all live and grow in productive harmony. But that will only happen if each and every one of us makes a commitment to playing our own part in the great challenge of the grand mosaic that is Canada. And that is our challenge for the week. So may it be. Amen. Virtue, ethics, honor. Small words with great meaning. How do we better incorporate them in our lives, in our homes, and in our nation's life?